And I'm joined by stress management expert and personal transformation leader Jennifer Welsh, who's here to talk about dispelling the myths that may be running your life. And later in the segment, before we take a break, I'll have my regular Good to Know minute when I ask my guests for their top tip on creating a successful life, and I'm going to hear Jennifer's. So, Jennifer.
Hello.
Hello. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's
you
great to be here. Thank you.
You look fantastic. You're a stress management expert and a personal transformation leader.
I am.
And some of your clients affectionately call you the real life coach.
Well, they call me that. Because I dispel the fantasies and the myths that they've been led to believe by society, the church, or their families, and instead I offer to them a different perspective of looking at their life, and maybe something that's not based on a false image or a false perception, but something that's based on a real life, a life that represents them, that is theirs.
Of course, we're going to talk about the myths in a bit, but I'm curious, what drew you to the field of personal and professional transformation? I mean, it's huge. It's been a booming field in the last few years. What drew you to it?
You know, I think I was always in the field because I was a phys ed teacher and a coach initially, and that really is about personal transformation. I'd have students become athletes and do very well, and then I became a guidance counselor. And as a guidance counselor, I recognized that we weren't able, at least my personal belief was at the time, that I wasn't able to do enough for my students other than really listen to them, provide unconditional regard. But I didn't have anything practical. I didn't have a practical solution for their problems for them. So I think that's what started me on my journey, kind of questioning, you know, there must be something out there that people can use, a tool, a method of questioning. There must be something that gives us practical solutions to our problems. And so I went out and studied, and that's what I do now for a living. I found a tool, I found a method of questioning. I realized that I have a gift at asking quality questions, questions that make you look at your life, my own and others' life differently. And that's what I've been doing for the last 17 years.
Now, you were in North Bay?
Sudbury.
Oh, Sudbury,
yes.
Correct. Yeah, but you're in Toronto now.
I am.
Practical solutions for people's problems. I mean, can you really tell us what would be a practical solution for a client of yours that may come in to say, look, you know, I've got a problem?
Well, really, it's in a way of thinking. It's in the way of your thinking. If I can help you perceive a situation or a problem from a different perspective, then you will gain some clarity and some peace of mind, and you will be able to find within the answer your solution to your problem. I'm not here to give you advice. I'm here to ask you the questions that will pull out your answers. You know, the self-help gurus all say, oh, all your answers are within. And they're right. But if you don't know which questions to ask yourself, then you're not going to get the answers that you need to solve your problem or your struggle or your challenge. And
well, what would be the difference then between a question and a quality question?
I think a question would be, oh, why is this happening to me? This always happens to me. Why doesn't anything work out for me? And a quality question might be, okay, what can I learn from this? How am I benefiting from this situation? What potential solution that I'm not even looking at? What gift is there? What blessing is there in this event that is driving me crazy, or this situation that is driving me crazy?
And, you know, that may not be necessarily an easy thing for most people to do. I mean, we don't think that way, I think, as we are reared.
We don't. We haven't been trained to think that way. We've been trained to conform, to think like everybody else, to fit in. And it is a completely different way of thinking. But once you understand how it works, it's a tool. You have it in your back pocket. It's yours. When you are able to learn to think from a different perspective and question yourself, you, for the rest of your life, will be able to find the blessings in your challenges, the gifts in them, the learnings that are there, the lessons.
So your practical solutions, one of them in your toolbox is asking quality questions.
It is definitely asking myself quality questions, for sure.
Do you have any other tools?
I think one of the things that's really important, and maybe it comes from asking quality questions, is knowing who you are. So having a real sense of who you are, not just who you want to be or who you think you're supposed to be, but actually knowing yourself.
So you would help your clients help them know themselves.
Well, it's a lot easier to make decisions if you know who you are, because then the decisions that you make are going to resonate with you. If you're making them based on who you think you're supposed to be, then oftentimes we drive ourselves even deeper into the problem.
And then we are injecting society's values. We're not living according to our heart, which you heard Andrea earlier, a lovely young woman who listens to her heart.
Who, has a great sense of who she is already. So she knows when a door is closing, as she said, she knows when her heart's open, which direction to go. Many people don't know because we've been inundated with who we think we're supposed to be. And that creates this image that we all try to live up to. And often we lose ourselves. We just don't know who we are.
Well, let's just talk for a few minutes about the myths. Mm-hmm. You are here to dispel the myths that may be running our lives. What would be the biggest myth?
Well, for me, and I can only speak from my perspective, but for me, I think one of the hugest myths out there is that we can get a perfect life or we can be a perfect person. And when I say perfect, perfect is defined by most people and by society as one-sided. So if I can get a perfect life, that means I can get a life that is problem-free, struggle-free. If I can be a perfect person, then I'm not ever going to be angry or mad or sad or frustrated or disappointed or hurt. And we fight and we struggle to get this perfect life. We're inundated with these images that if we try hard enough, we can do this. If we try hard enough, we will get this. And what happens is that what I've seen is that people are, it develops like an insecurity because you create this image and underneath it, that's not really what's going on. Oh, I've got this perfect life, but underneath, you and your husband just had a huge fight before you walked out the door, but now you've got the big smile on your face and everything's perfect. And it's maintaining that image that is so stressful, or maintaining that image that you're this one-sided perfect person that is so stressful to people and creates so many problems, and you do lose yourself within that.
Is this something you experienced?
Absolutely. So I'm speaking from experience.
Yeah.
And I have lived that. I lived most of my life searching for and trying to have that perfect life and be that perfect person. I married a handsome, wealthy man, and we lived in a large home, and we hung out with the right people, and we had the children, and it was a beautiful facade, because that's what it was. Because underneath it, there were all kinds of challenges and struggles that we just couldn't let people see, because then we weren't as good as everybody else, and so you'd hide in that, and then of course the struggles get greater because you're trying to hide them. And I eventually, felt lost in that and developed a huge insecurity and felt lost, and started my own transformation. I said, okay, this just isn't working. This isn't the life that fulfills me. It's disappointing. It's depressing. It's unfulfilling. And so I went out and started to create my own transformation of myself, used myself as the guinea pig. And now I can say that, I have a much greater sense of who I am. I like myself, I appreciate myself as who I am, and I value myself for all aspects of myself and my life. It's not that, it certainly wouldn't fit now in the life of the perfect image, that's for sure.
And what was the first step that you did in transforming your life? I mean, you decided, okay, I'm going to change it. So what did you do?
Well, you know what? I started doing what I do with my clients. I just started questioning myself and looking at myself and asking myself the tough questions, and making myself really look at who I am and what I'm about. So that's, and it wasn't easy. It's not easy. It was very challenging to...
Transformation, I don't think, is easy, generally speaking.
No. And of course, our own seems much worse than everybody else's. So, and I worked through that on my own so that I'm able to share with my clients and my students.
What would be a second top myth?
A second top myth would be, I think there's a few, but for women especially, I see this good girl myth out there. A lot of my clients come with this, I'm supposed to be this good girl. I'm supposed to take care of everyone else and put everybody else first. And to be a good girl, I have to be nice all the time, even when I really don't feel like it.
I see that across the board with many women that I know, yes.
And it really is disempowering, because at times being the good girl isn't what's called for. Often
bad girl.
The bad girl might be a better identity to choose at that time. So I see that as a myth that's very disempowering for women. And
because we feel that we have to be good all the time, we have to give of ourselves, we have to be nurturing all the time, put ourselves and what we love on the back burner. Is that right?
And it tends to be it happens to be more about valuing everyone else and putting them as more important than us. And when in fact, really we are the most important person in our own life. And we are the most valuable person in our own life.
And on that note, we have to take a break. And before we do, we have our regular Good to Know Minute when I ask you for your top tip on creating a successful life. And I know you've got a great answer.
Well, for me, to have a successful life, I believe that you need to know yourself, appreciate yourself as you are, and value yourself more than anyone else could ever value you.
Thank you, Jennifer. We'll take a break and we'll be back. Welcome back to Extraordinary Women on thatchannel.com. I'm Shannon Skinner, and I'm here speaking with Jennifer Welsh, and we are talking about the myths that may be running your life and holding us back, and we were talking about the good girl myth.
We were, and I thought I'd give an example of how the good girl myth can be very disempowering in our lives. I worked with a client who is a businesswoman who was functioning under the belief and the myth that she was supposed to be this good girl, and that to be a good girl, she was supposed to be kind to her employees. She owns her own business, kind to her employees, take care of them, kind of put them first. And what she came to see me because she was totally stressed out because her business was in total chaos. She was unable to manage her staff, and her business wasn't growing. So when we dispelled this myth that she was supposed to be this good girl at all times, and she was able to walk back into her business as an empowered woman, she could manage her staff. And, she had to let some go, unfortunately. And, she created a structure for them by being an empowered woman, not necessarily a good girl. And now her struggles are in the fact that her business is growing and she's got to deal with that. So, that's just a great example of how the good girl myth was seriously affecting her business and her life.
So one challenge just transformed to another.
Exactly.
But she was more empowered.
But she was more empowered.
And different challenges.
That's right. And so now she can be the good girl and she can be the empowered woman. Depends where she wants to play the game.
And which leads us, of course, into the third myth. You have a third myth.
Well, you know what? I think there's a myth out there that we think that if we try hard enough, we'll actually end up with I'm going to say a problem-free life, a life of no problems. And that life will get easier. And that's just not how it's going to be.
I don't know anyone who doesn't have some problems of some sort at some level.
And we have problems for a reason. We get stressed out for a reason. because it's an opportunity for us to grow, to learn about ourselves, to shift the way we think, to shift our beliefs, and to become more whole, more of who we are. That's why problems don't go away. They're just not going to go away. So they'll shift from an area of life that's high priority to you to another area of life. So for example, let's say I'm parenting and my teenage children are driving me insane. So that's where all my stress and my challenges are. Now my children have moved out of the home. Now my challenges or stress are, oh my goodness, I've let my body go and I've got to get back into shape. So it just keeps moving from one to the other to the other. That's the good news. For some people it's the bad news, but it's the good news because that's how we grow and evolve.
And of course, the pursuit of happiness is, you think it's possible?
Well, you know what? We can't be happy all the time. It's, that's part of the myth that when we're problem free, we'll be happy. But I'm going to tell you this. When you cut yourself with a knife, are you happy? When your 14-year-old comes home drunk, are you happy? No, it's not going to ever happen. You may move to a more fulfilling life, a life that you're actually in, that represents you, that is a great reflection of you, that fulfills you, something that's meaningful, but it's not going to be all happy all the time. It just is impossible.
Somebody recently told me that the pursuit of happiness is a one-way ticket to depression.
I would totally agree with that. We talk about myths, and I was speaking about fantasies. We build these fantasies that, oh, when I get there, it's going to be better. The grass is always greener on the other side. And those fantasies can lead to depression because we create an image and our reality doesn't measure up to that. And then we get depressed. Well, why aren't I living that? It's so frustrating.
And of course, and now, given the economic climate, there must be a lot of stressed out people out there, I'm sure, given what's happening. What can these people do? I mean, not everyone may be able to get to to be able to pick up the phone and call you, but I mean, what can people do that are feeling extremely stressed out there? Well,
you know what? Start trying to look at maybe your problem from a different perspective and asking yourself, how am I benefiting me? How is this benefiting me? How am I learning? What am I learning from this? What's the gift in this for me? And it's going to be very, very difficult initially to think from that perspective, but it is the way to dissolve that stress that you're experiencing in that situation.
And you've talked about transforming stress into being empowered.
Mm-hmm. And we can use our stress to become more empowered and to become more of who we are. I believe that's why we have it. It's here to teach us about us and to shift beliefs and perspectives that we've picked up along the way that may not necessarily be in our best interest, our own best interest.
I was, doing a little bit of research on the net about stress, and in most things I was reading it, there are a lot of experts out there that make it sound like stress is really bad. I mean, stress is not always bad. We are, as you said, meant to have some.
We are meant to have some, because otherwise we won't grow and evolve. When my life is going well, when everything is the way I want it to be, I'm not growing or evolving. I'm just not. I'm enjoying my life. I'm in that. When a problem comes up, when a challenge shows up, that's when I start to grow, to evolve, to question my life, to maybe get it on the right track, to listen to my heart, to start figuring out what I really want out of life.
And your programs, there was one that really caught my eye. How do fear, fantasies, and failures destroy dreams?
Well, fear will keep us one step away from our dreams all the time. And fantasies create these illusions that will never ever be met. So we'll be disappointed. We'll never get there with the fantasies. We have these fantasies that'll be all one-sided.
Can you give me an example?
Okay, let's say I have the dream of, a woman has a dream of meeting the perfect guy, and the fantasy of that would be there's no such thing as a one-sided guy. Just like I'm not one-sided, I come with both sides. Hey, I can be angry, I can be mean. So why would I end up with somebody who is one-sided, who never gets angry or mean or demanding? So that would definitely be a fantasy. And then failures, and I say failures with quotation marks because I don't believe we ever fail. I believe we receive lessons, and it's up to us to glean the meaning and the wisdom from these lessons. But lots of people feel if something hasn't worked out, it's a failure, and then because of that, they feel they're less deserving. Maybe their self-worth is down. And I say, hey, let's shift that, and let's look at it so that it's not a failure, but just another lesson, another opportunity for you to learn about you.
Do you find in your business that men and women have a different perspective on failure? I mean, do women feel it more perhaps if they have a relationship that's fallen apart, and men maybe more so in the area of finance? Do you find it's the same across the board?
You know what? It's the same across the board,
Yeah.
because I have men in my practice that are just as upset about their relationships not working out as I have women that are upset that their finances may not be at what they're at, in the place that they want them to be at. So, and maybe that's just because I attract those kind of people, who knows that, but men get just as upset if a relationship, if they have a fantasy about a relationship and it's not working out the way they want, they can get stressed out by that too.
So what does it take then to have a great life?
You know what? I think we all have a great life right now, and I think that many of us aren't recognizing it. And that's what it takes to have a great life. To have a look at your life and say, you know what? This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is exactly what's supposed to be happening to me so that I can learn about me and appreciate that your life is always going to have two sides to it. And that's the greatness of it, because it's a whole life. It's not a half life. So that's what I think it takes.
And there's some wisdom in there, I believe.
There may be some wisdom in there.
Is wisdom something that do you think we can be learned, or does it have to be experienced?
I think you can learn wisdom. And I speak from experience on that one, because 15 years ago I was that hollow image, the insecure hollow image, and through looking for the other side, through questioning, through finding the blessings in my struggles and my problems, I've gleaned the wisdom, because we have a choice. You can either battle the problem or you can find the wisdom in it and move on. So yes, it can definitely be learned.
So Jennifer, we are almost out of time now.
Okay.
So how can people contact you or find out more?
Go on
about
my website, jenniferwelsh.ca.
.ca. Perfect. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here. It was
Thank
great.
you for
Really
letting me
appreciate it.
share this.
Yeah, thank you.